Hey deserving students, welcome back to another example video. This one's going to be on the third question of the examples in Apex. Here we go. Alright, so the question is this. If ball 1 with a mass of 0.03 kilograms is carried forward with a speed of 3 meters per second, and ball 2 0.02 kilograms in mass is carried forward with a speed of 2 meters per second. What are their kinetic energies? That first question that we went through asked us to compare the potential energy and the kinetic energy of one object. The second question that we were looking at asked us to compare the gravitational potential energy of two different objects. Now we're being asked to compare the kinetic energy of two different objects. So let's start looking at it. Remember that the first step of S is strategy. What is this asking me? Well, we've determined that we're asking what is the kinetic energy of ball 1 and what is the kinetic energy of ball 2. Therefore, what I need to use is my kinetic energy equation, which I'll write below. Kinetic energy is equal to 1/2 times the mass times the velocity squared. So what do I need to know for these? I need to know the mass of ball 1, I need to know the mass of ball 2, and I need to know the velocity of ball 1 and the velocity of ball 2. Let's write them down. Alright, so we know that the mass of ball 1 is 0.003 kilograms, and we know that the velocity of ball 1 is 3 meters per second. And from this question, I know that the mass of ball 2 is 0.002 kilograms, and velocity is 2 meters per second. I'm going to carry this information over into my next slide. Alright, looking at these two, I have a mass of 0.003 kilograms and a mass of 0.02 kilograms. Whew, good catch. You just saw one of the ways that things can go wrong. You can mix up your units really easily. So kind of thinking about what you're going to do in several steps is a great way to make sure you don't mess it up. From this information, I know that ball 2 is going to have a higher mass than ball 1, and the velocity of ball 1 has more velocity than that of ball 2. Let's look at the equation for kinetic energy. So I know that the kinetic energy equation is 1/2 times the mass times the velocity squared. What kind of number might I expect to get out of each of these? Well, velocity squared is kind of a big number. Anytime I take something and I square it, the result is always going to be, that times itself. So even though ball 2 is got greater mass than ball 1, I might wind up being around the same. Or, potentially, I might wind up having a higher kinetic energy for ball 2 based on the mass and the velocity because it's so much larger than ball 1. Let's figure out what happens. I'll set up the equation. Well, I set up the equations for both of these. I just wanted to make sure that I was plugging in the right thing in the right place. Now all I have to do is plug in the right information. Okay, to solve for ball 1, I do 1/2 times 0.003 times 3 squared. And to solve for ball 2, I do 1/2 times 0.02 kilograms times 2 squared. Don't forget that using your order of operations, you're always going to do parentheses and exponents first. So I need to start by squaring 3 and then 2. I squared both of them, and now I can move on with my multiplication. I did the math, and it looks like ball 1 has a kinetic energy of 0.0135 joules, and ball 2 has a kinetic energy of 0.04 joules, which is quite a bit higher. So the next thing that I do is, do my answers make sense? Well, I just made sure that I was squaring both of these things, right? And later we'll, make sense of our units, but right now I'm just straight up telling you that kinetic energy is expressed in joules. The last thing I'm going to do is make sure that I'm answering the question properly. The question didn't ask me to compare them. It just asked me straight up, what is the kinetic energy of each? So knowing that, I just go ahead and round up or round down as needed. And with that, I come to the conclusion that the kinetic energy of ball 1 is 0.01 joules and the kinetic energy of ball 2 is 0.04 joules. Hope this helped, and I'll see you in the next one.